Hey, what's going on? You're here with E-Tech Millie, and we are going to be doing the startup for tomorrow, the NPR. So what I like to do before I do anything, kind of whatever, I like to do research. I like to figure out the bad pros, cons, and try to get ahead of whatever kind of seeable issues that might arise. So it is going to be a 2002 body in a 1998 engine. So therefore, it's going to make it a 1998, meaning that it's going to have less computer components than the 2002 normally has. That's one thing about it. So just talking about before we start this PowerPoint, I'll just like to touch up on a few things that make the biggest difference out of the 98 and 2002. All right. So when you talk about the 98, both of them are a GM 5.7L Vortec. So the 98 is more common, and the gas, this is the one I'm referring to, is more updated electronics. When we talk about the diesel, it's a different type of engine. If you ever notice the engine from both of them, just make it a point to kind of look at them, and you can kind of tell that they do have a huge difference. You look in the engine bay of the diesel and you look at the engine bay of the gas, is completely different. Well, they have some similarities, but they are vastly different. So the diesel is more of a 4HE3, HE1. That is the kind, or 4HE1T. Those are the type of engine that they have. Then the thing about it, again, the NPR is more mechanical, low electronics as compared to the 2002, where it has more electronics and emissions control. So the 98 has fewer sensors, simpler wiring. The 2002 is different ECU logic and sensor set. So the key takeaway is engine family may be the same, but electronics and emissions are not plug and play. So when it comes down to it, there's going to be some things that's going to be missing because of it, but there's going to be a lot of things that overlay in really the same thing. So when we talk about the 98 versus the 2002 emissions, the pre-OBD2 minimum, so that means that the OB2 is not really going to be available. So the 2002 is more OBD2 compliant. The EGR is simpler in the 98, as far as the 2002 has been more integrated. There's less sensors. There's more sensors in the 2002 as far as the MAP, the EGR feedback. The ECU, as far as it's basic when they talk about the 98, and it's more restrictive and coded in the 2002. So the number one complications that you will find outside of the exhaust system will be 98 simpler harness, fewer connections, easier engine swap. 2002, more sensors tied to the ECU, harness year specific, ECU expects specific signal types. So best practice, if swapping engines, reuse the chassis year, wiring, and ECU. In my case, I got what I can get. I found a 98. I'm gonna use 98. So a little bit more about it. What is going to be the same? The engine mount is going to be the same. The bell housing bolt pattern is going to be the same. The crankshaft, the flex plate is going to be the same, and the transmission interface is going to be the same. Now, I tell you this: the bell housing is going to be bigger. Again, that's the issue that we're running into when it comes to doing the exhaust system of the passenger side. Tomorrow, I plan on having a welder come, and they're going to weld it because I can set it up. And I was looking to get a couple of crescent, what they call them, shims. I was looking to get like a bunch of crescent shims and set it up and then do it that way. But if I can get a welder to come and make it more permanent and safer, I'm gonna do that, because if I'm be on this road, I'm not trying to get no breakdowns, man. So it's best just to do it right the first time if you can do it right, right? So a 98 long block will physically bolt into a 2002 and vice versa. So let's talk about the intake and exhaust differences. The manifold bolt patterns usually match. They do match. The EGR ports and sensor bungs may differ, and the exhaust routing slightly revised by 2002. Common solution: use original year intake and exhaust manifolds, cat or adapt unused ports. So when we talk about the fuel system, the in the injectors, the 98 is simpler. The fuel pressure control is mechanical and the sensors are minimal, versus the 2002 where the ECU is going to be specifically controlling the injectors and regulates the fuel pressure control, and it's required for the ECU to sensor. Swapping injector without ECU matching, drivability issues. So that might be something that I may run across later on. At the same time, we're gonna try to run it for 2 months, and then after that, I'm gonna try to sell the truck, and I'll sell it probably $3,000 when I'm done with it. But I'm gonna try to make 24,000 in the next 2 months. After everything's said and done, because when you're on that road, I mean, if you can give up your life, do it like a bid, you can make some money. Moving on. So transmission compatibility, both of them are automatic. And okay. And then if it was both of them, if it was manual, work too. So cross swipe needs: matching flex plate, flywheel, correct torque converter, matching ECU programming. So when we talk about reliability and servability, the 98 is easier to use, cheaper parts, fewer failure points. The 2002, better diagnostic, smoother operation, better parts availability long term. They're really the same. I mean, it's like the 97 to 2003, or 96 to 2003. It's really the same. Bottom line, it's in this engine family. They physically fit. Transmission mating and mounting points are the same. The biggest differences: the wiring harness, the ECU logic, the emissions equipment, and the sensor requirements. So with what's recommended: buy the engine as a long block only, keep the truck's original ECU and wiring, swap over intake, exhaust, sensors, and accessories. Do not mix ECUs casually. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the little PowerPoint I got. All right, let's. Okay, so this is going to be a guide on swapping the Isuzu NPR, the same model family, switching to use engine from a different year within the same NPR model family. Our focus is going to be compatibility, risk, and best practices. So what same model family means? Same engine series. Example, like I was saying, I was talking about the diesel. If it was diesel, it'll be 4HE1 or the 4HKL. I mean the 4HK1, or that I believe the 6HG1, and what we're going to be dealing with is gas. So it's going to be the GM 5.7 liter Vortec gas. So in order to do it, you have to have the same type of fuel type. So you cannot put a diesel engine into a gas engine or vice versa. It will not work. Similar emissions generation: pre-emissions tier 2/3. So yeah, pre-emissions, again, if it's a 99 or older, You don't have to worry about that code, the ELD book as much. You don't have to worry about the ELD. You're going to have to do logbooks. All right, common NPR engine family. So again, the gas. So the MG 5.7 liter Vortec is late 90s, early 2000s. Again, it'll be 1996 to 2003, I believe. I may be off. When we talk about two of the diesels, we have the 4HE1T, which is a 98 through 2004. And then you have the 4HK1, which is 2000 in current with emissions variants. So the manual versus automatic transmission compatibility does matter. So again, if it is a manual, you cannot use automatic. If it is automatic, you cannot use a manual. It has to be a manual, or automatic transmission. All right. So when we talk about the year-to-year compatibility factors, the engine block casting usually is compatible. The sensors and wiring harnesses may differ. The ECU, PCM, calibrations are differences. The EGR emissions equipment changes. So again, we were talking about the emissions is different from a 98 to a 2002. The emissions for the 2002 is not going to, the emissions for the 2002 is going to be more closely guarded because it has more sensors, things of that nature, versus the emissions equipment being not as complicated or complex as it is in 98, which I believe is a big difference. So what usually bolts up directly? The engine block and mounts, because it's the same family. The bell housing pattern, same thing. The crankshaft and flex plate and flywheel, all right, and then the accessory mounting points. So one thing I have to say, when I was making the swap out, I did mess up as far as messing up the flywheel. I had to put the old flywheel engine, the engine, the flywheel off the old engine. I had to put into the new engine, which really wasn't a big deal. Then after that, when we talk about the bell house pattern, the bell housing pattern was the same. Everything really was the same. It was like a plug and play dang near. One thing I have to say, when you are going to be doing this, one thing that I wish I knew earlier was the fact that the passenger side, the exhaust for the passenger side, does not always line up correctly. There's also on the driver's side lines up, and you might have to do a little bit of play, kind of lift it up, and it works perfect. But when we talk about the passenger side, it's just a little different because the bell housing is just a little bit bigger. So it's a little bit bigger, and because it's a little bit bigger, it makes it so that having that exhaust manifold, the three bolts, the three flanges going into there doesn't really make as much sense. Which I'm doing. I'm getting a welder to take care of it because I'm be on the road. I don't need the exhaust as far as exhaust leaks and things of that nature. I'm trying to just go ahead and get it for these 2 months. I'm trying to, as soon as I get it, man, I'm behind the ball. I need that money. I might mess around and videotape a few of the trips that we take, but that's neither here nor there. So when you talk about setting that up, I say when you're taking the engine off, if you can, try not to break things. Taking apart is going to be quicker than putting it and reassembling back together. My recommendation is to take pictures of both sides, so that way you have a physical representation of what it looks like. And I would even go taking pictures as far as on the bottom too of it. So it'll be like 5 pictures total, or 6 pictures total, however you want to do it. So it'll be one to the up left, down left, up right, down right, up top, and at the very bottom, where you might mess around and take pictures of just really the front. One thing I have to say, it has a MAP that's right in, like, on the engine, right where the flywheel is. It's like not the flywheel. I mean, just right where the fan clutch is. It's like a map, I believe, where it's I think it's a what's they call that? Camshaft position sensor. Yeah, camshaft position sensor that is connected at the very bottom. So that's another thing you have to watch out for. And then the connections off of the fan itself, the fan cover. Those are things that when you're actually doing it, that's when you have to figure out. But generally speaking, if it's in the same model family, the newer it is, the more advanced it's going to be as far as, but the accessory mounting butt points is going to be the same most times. And there are going to be slight differences as far as sizes, things of that nature you might have to watch out for. So again, when you're doing it when you're setting it up, I feel that the best way to do it is to set it up, put the mounting bolts on, attach the flywheel, attach the bell housing, attach the exhaust pipes, set it up where you still have wiggle room, and then as soon as you have the exhaust on, then you can kind of set it and then tighten up everything. And the reason why you're not supposed to tighten up everything from the beginning is because you still need some play. If you have play in it, that means that in a sense, the way I keep talking about it, because it's really when you talk about getting components, it takes a long time to get components. One component took like 3 weeks to get to me, and then when it finally got to me, it turns out that it's really too short, but I have to make it work for the time being. So because it was so short compared to the both of the originals, because both of them were off. The EGR line was off. So the EGR line, instead of like the EGR line is slightly flexible, but because I guess it's like a universal EGR line that's compatible for the most part, instead of it having like I'll say like 3 feet of 3 feet, where it's like an L 3 feet, it's more like a L of 2 feet, 2.5 feet. So it feels like it's like half inch off. So instead of it laying across the side of the valve cover, it's actually on top of the valve cover. So in my mental mind, I'm thinking as soon as as soon as I get a little bit more money in my pocket, that's one of the things I'm gonna have to fix on it. I'm basically essentially going to have to mail a new EGR line, future tense, and that way I can then just have it, properly, because I don't like the cosmetic look of it right now. But at the same time, you got to work with what you got. As this rule of thumb. So yeah, that's the best way to do it when you talk about bolting it up. All right. So what often needs to be swapped? The wiring harness, the ECU, PCM, the sensors, crank, cam, mat, etc. Or etc. So ECT. The intake and exhaust manifolds. Like my whole thing is it would have been nice if I had the ability to take the old the 2002 engine components as far as the intake exhaust manifold. If I could have took the exhaust manifolds off and then put it onto to at least the passenger side, then I guess that I probably wouldn't be running across what I'm running across now. But at the same time, most times, I mean, I doubt that someone else is going to be putting in a 98 into a 2002. If anything, you'll probably be going to be doing another engine, but this is more about engine families if you really think about it. So when we talk about engine families, this kind of issue is probably going to happen with a lot of other vehicles. So right now, this is the fight I'm going against, but hey, it might be a F550 you're doing or something else of that caliber, or So yeah, so emissions and legal considerations. Newer engine into older truck, usually okay. Older engines into newer ones, sometimes Most meet chassis year emissions rules, check state inspection requirements. So gas versus diesel swap warnings. Gas to diesel is not going to be a direct swap, and vice versa. Different fuel systems, wiring mounts, transmission, and ECU incompatibility. Cost usually exceeds truck value. So in order to trade out the things you need to trade out, if you wanted to flip flop, it's going to cost more than what it's worth. So the best practices when you are swapping strategy, use donor engine as a long block, reuse original truck sensors and wiring, keep original ECU when possible, label everything during teardown. So I have to say this: if I ever was to run across another GMC engine, I can dang near look at that thing and know every little piece and component. So if I have an issue when I'm on this road, when I get back on the road, you know, I do plan on coming back home, just because, I would like to finish off with and then I do plan on buying some other vehicles to kind of flip and things of that nature. But for right now, my main thing is I will have to, like, whenever you're doing something, when you first do it, you're gonna have to really label stuff, know stuff, get diagrams and things of that nature. And again, that's the reason why I'm telling you it's good to take at least 6 pictures. 2 up, down, left, 2 right, up, down, and then 1 top, 1 bottom, where you can kind of see the whole thing. So that way, if it's a piece that's kind of missing here and there, you can kind of understand where it should go, what should happen, things of that nature. Now, the thing is, if you don't do that, you're going to be sitting there looking at a piece of wire, not knowing that you don't really need it, or if it is something that you do need, it's kind of like it's iffy. You might mess around and put some kind of I guess a radiator hose into the exhaust. Who knows what kind of stuff that you will do if you don't really leave yourself I guess a road map for yourself. All right. So pre-installed checklist, compression or leak down test. Also replace seals and gaskets, inspect timing components, verify crank and cam sensor types. So one thing that I made it a point to do, if you were paying attention, first things I did was I replaced the seals, gaskets. That's one of the first things I did. Anything of that nature, I made it a point to also use some of the what's that called? It's called the sealage. I use some sealant. You're not supposed to use too much on the valves, but you're supposed to use a good amount for the engine pan. So that's one thing that was found too. So let's talk about the post install. In fact, hold on. Yeah. So compression and or leak down test. So one thing about it is when we first looked at the engine, we made sure it wasn't milky or anything in it. We made sure that the compression was good. We started it up, kind of ran it, cranked it for a little bit, see if it was worth getting. So the testing is needed. As far as this leak down test, let's go ahead and let's watch something on that in a little bit. We're gonna watch something on that in a little bit about the leak down test. So when we talk about verifying the crank and cam sensor type, hey, I guess that is something that could happen. They could change it up. Like, everything's not the same rule. Just because it's in the same family don't mean it's going to have the same type. So you do have to make sure it's the same type. So post-install checklist, prime oil system, check for codes before driving, monitor oil pressure and coolant temp, short test drives before full load. So what I plan on doing is I plan on doing more local stuff for the first week, and I'm gonna try to get my 300 500 miles that way, and then do an oil change. So the first oil I'm basically gonna do, and I'm whenever I put the oil in, for the most part, it's gonna be running through. It's gonna be a lot of stuff that's probably gonna be greedy and stuff like that, and things of that nature. And after about 300 to 500 miles, we're gonna do another oil change. So it's a real quick oil change. It's gonna have to happen. All right. And it's important to monitor the oil pressure and coolant temps. Please monitor that coolant temp. One thing I have to say is whenever you're dealing with at least when you talk about the NPR, for the amount of work it doesn't have a lot of oil in it. It's only like 5 quarts of oil, and 5 quarts of oil burns through real quick if it's burning. If it was like the F-350 I got, it's like 15 quarts of oil, and that right there is it runs off oil pressure really. At the same times, if it takes a lot, it's a lot quicker to burn oil in the NPR. Long story short, and that the NPR does have a infamous problem with the heating problem that it has. I recommend, if you feel that you're kind of running kind of hot, man, you might as well sit down somewhere. All right. So risk versus reward. So pros: lower cost, faster turnaround. Cons: wiring, emissions, complexity. The best results when staying within same engine family. So again, if you wanted to do like a Lexus to I don't know, a Nissan type, and it's not going to be the same family. Or if you wanted to do a different year, like if I was to try to put let's say that I wanted to put a new engine in, like a 2015 in the 2002, at that point is going to be major differences that's gonna happen, and I'm probably gonna have to buy some aftermarket parts and try to do a little bit more research. And one thing that I know a lot of people say is, if you thought about it, someone else probably already did something with it already. So it's good to try to use other people's mess ups and kind of know what to do. All right. Final recommendation: match engine family first, match emissions generation second, treat donor engine as a long block, plan wiring and ECU strategy before purchase. So one thing I have to say is, when what I was doing, a lot of times I would take parts of the old engine and put it onto the new engine. So that's one thing that I was doing on a regular basis. Hey, this is different. Then again, when you're doing stuff like this, you have to order stuff. And let's face it, during this time, during Christmas time, the mail is slow. If I did this around September, it probably would have been so much faster. Everything would have got there. I have to say, in July, I ordered a piece in July. I ordered a piece on like the 7th, and I got it the 10th. And it was like a vital piece that came from like Washington State. So because of the Christmas season, it's going to be kind of harder to get what you want. I shouldn't say harder. Well, it is going to be harder to get what you want, and you're going to have to wait a little bit longer because everybody and their mother is waiting for them gifts. So because everybody and their mother is waiting for them gifts, it is what it is. So one thing I would like to look at, let's see, before we start watching some videos of other people who are doing kind of like what we're doing, let's go ahead and look at this Facebook. And the reason I'm looking at the Facebook, because it has engine pictures that I really appreciate. And so I have a 96. Does anyone have the specifics of what exact versions of 350 5.7 Chevy motor this is? Gen 2 Vertec. Thanks. I think it's a Vertec because it looked like mine. Well, it's slightly different. It's slightly different. But yeah, see that little tube there? Yeah. Upper radiator hose. What's that? Is that the water pump? I'm not exactly sure. No. That's the AC compressor right there. Timing belt. Then the what they call that? Reservoir or the overflow. This is the radiator. It's like the overflow coolant. That's where the cab mounts on. So looking at this, yeah, these are the connections I was talking about. So yeah, looking at the 98 and the 2002, this really look like they're twins right here. And then this is a tensioner right here. This component, like where you see like right, yeah, that's the tensioner. I see it. So yeah, that's a Vortex. Yeah, they got it. It is a great engine. I'm not gonna lie. So same as what it is in the express vans of those years. Okay, Silverado works. Okay, six is in L3, L31R. All right. Yeah, we gonna join the family. If you have me, if you have me. All right. Do y'all follow rules which include not to post vehicle sales? Yes, I own a Zuzu. Yep, 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 yep. Oh, don't vote. Okay. So they don't want me selling vehicles. That's cool. That's cool. So this is the crossover over here. They call that. I know that's the exhaust right there. Um, that tube is off, so they need to put that tube back together. That yeah, the wiring. Set the map, I believe, right here. This is the ECU or PCM right there. Um, the coil pack. Oh yeah, and the alternator. All right. Fan clutch is up here. Radiator. Oh, one thing about these vehicles at the very bottom, if you it has like a little tab where you can open it up and like flush the radiator, So that's pretty cool. So let's see what this group talking about. So okay, the Isuzu NPR and Mitsubishi Fuso mechanics of the world. Oh yep, 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 yep. Got to change my fuel injector tomorrow on my 4BD2 3.9 Isuzu NPR TDI. Any pointers? Yeah, they look massively different than what we work with. Yeah, looking at it. Is that an inline or something? So that's the exhaust right there. Computer component to it. Must be the injectors. This must be six. It might be. Is that diesel? It'll be diesel. Yeah, it'll be diesel. Go start spraying them down right away. I have two of these engines. One recently just blew a head gasket at 450 miles, 450,000 miles. Also, it's ever lacking power. There's an inline fuel filter just before the fuel filter, like a symbol inside the line that needs to be serviced when doing the fuel filter. Had so much more power after doing so. Not sure if I should do the head gasket or just pull the motor out of the other truck. All right, let's what they talking about. 2000 NPR MAF issue. Anybody know why my harness isn't sending power to the mass airflow sensor? Um,
The yellow wire is reading 5 volts. The middle, I believe, is ground. I'm getting 0.2 ohms out of that. This one on the right is like a pinkish wire. I am not reading anything on that wire at all. I was told that there was a fuse or a relay that possibly controls the mass airflow, but I have no idea which one it is. If anybody knows, that would be incredibly helpful. I do have another Isuzu that I tested, and so I know for sure that the pink wire should be putting out basically battery voltage. So if anybody knows what I can do, what I can check, if it's a relay or if it's throwing this truck off of a cliff, let me know. I have a mass airflow sensor that's not working.
okay, so the best answer somebody had was try swapping your ECU had the same problem on a '06, and was the ECU failing to supply power.
We've got the yellow wire is reading 5 volts. The middle, I believe, is ground. I'm getting 0.2 ohms out of that. This one on the right is like a pinkish wire. I am not reading anything on that wire at all. I was told that there was a fuse or a relay that possibly controls the mass airflow, but I have no idea which one it is. If anybody knows,
I'm gonna check out that hub right there.
I do have another Isuzu that I tested, and so I know for sure that the pink wire should be putting out basically battery voltage. So if anybody knows.
All right, so what else? The MAF has power, has battery voltage and ground and signal wires. It uses a hot wire to measure airflow. The hot wire gets junk burned onto it and insulates the wire and throws off the signal, thinking it's not drawing in a certain amount of air and trimming back on the fuel. I've taken apart hundreds of them and cleaned up those wires. If you do, be careful. They break easy. Yeah, they do. What's this? Oh, a little diagram. Look at this person being helpful. Relays, wires. Bring me back to ATT days. I found this. Might need to check your power at the ACU side, since the 12 volt is supplied via the ECU. Might have a break in the wire, or ECU isn't outputting 12 volts. Doesn't the ECU provide 5V to the MAF? Then Adam Smith says, Taylor, well, it should be if the other truck he has is 12 volts. I would say this one is supposed to be as well. All right. Good morning. Yeah, so let's go ahead and I got one more thing. I have a couple more things that I'd like to do. Let's go ahead, and I don't want to sidetrack and talk more about the NPR. Let's just talk about just breaking in engines and just swapping engines. And at this point, I'm just going to be listening and watching others and what they have to say, so we can learn from their mistakes, because a smart man learns from them. A wise man learns from others' mistakes.
Getting ready to fire up a new engine? Make sure to perform these critical steps first. But before you do anything, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We're excited to bring you new tech videos, project builds, car features, interviews, and much more. Now, about that new engine. Whether you built it from the ground up in your home garage, pulled it from a junkyard and rebuilt it, or bought a turnkey crate engine from one of our key manufacturers, they all need to go through a proper break-in procedure. The right steps during this procedure can save your engine, your bank account, and ultimately your sanity. Start by inspecting your engine. That means you should ensure that all accessories, such as headers, alternator, and power steering pump, are tight before you start the engine. And check for any water or oil leaks. Even if your engine came as a complete turnkey assembly, it's best to check all major components, such as the distributor, spark plugs, ignition wires, and carburetor. These items could have been damaged or disturbed during shipping. Proper lubrication is key during break-in. When installing an oil filter, fill it about halfway with oil, move the rubber gasket that surrounds the filter with oil, and then tighten by hand. Consider using a premium brand oil and filter. A cheap filter will not be cheap if it costs you an engine. Use a 5W30 or 10W30 motor oil with an engine braking additive, ZDDP or zinc camshaft additive, especially with flat tappet camshafts. Speaking of lubrication, you'll want to avoid a dry startup. That means priming the pump. It's best to prime the oil system with an engine priming tool or a pre-luber, even if the engine has already been dyno tested. One last word on lubrication. If you plan on running synthetic oil, you should break a new engine in with a conventional mineral type engine oil for the first 4,000 plus miles. If you fail to follow this procedure, the piston rings may never seat. On freshly built engines, you'll need to change your oil and filter much more frequently. After using a break-in oil, you should change your oil at 50 miles, 500 miles, and 1,500 miles. Again at 4,000 miles or so, it's fine to switch to a synthetic oil. Timing is another key consideration during initial startup. Set the ignition timing after starting the engine. The starting point for most carbureted engines is 34 degrees before top dead center. Timing is another key consideration during initial startup. Set the ignition timing after starting the engine. The starting point for most carbureted engines is 34 degrees before top dead center with vacuum advanced. A break-in oil, you should change your oil at 50 miles, 500 miles, and 1,500 miles. Again.
All right, so he's saying change it at 50, 500, and 1,500. It's a lot of oil. Same time, it's flushing out, flushing out, flushing out. So it sounds like I might change it the first day after actually doing some work, then change it after, really, you know, depending on, change it then, change it there, change it there. Yeah, okay.
And at 4,000 miles or so, it's fine to switch to a synthetic oil. Timing is another key consideration during initial startup. Set the ignition timing after starting the engine. The starting point for most carbureted engines is 34 degrees before top dead center with vacuum advanced disconnected at 3,000 RPM. Some experimentation with timing is required for optimum results with locally available fuel, but it should be between 32 and 38 degrees before top dead center. If your engine uses a hydraulic flat tappet camshaft, keep the engine between 2,000 and 2,500 RPM with no load on the engine for the first 30 minutes. This is critical to break in the camshaft, although roller cams really do not need to follow this step. You'll also need to keep an eye on your cooling system during the break-in process. Most often, the cooling system on a fresh engine swap will have a lot of trapped air, which will lead to wild temperature gauge readings and possible water pump cavitation. To help alleviate trapped air in the cooling system, fill it with a 50-50 mix of quality coolant and water a few hours before you plan on starting the engine. Leave the radiator cap off during this time. This tends to help purge a fair amount of trapped air before you start the engine. You can also use a lever vent type radiator before you plan on starting the engine. Leave the radiator cap off during this time. This tends to help purge a fair amount of trapped air before you start the engine. You can also use a lever vent type radiator cap on your radiator so you can manually purge trapped air while the engine is running. Your normal cap can then be reinstalled after the engine cools off. Many engine manufacturers also recommend varying the loads on the engine for the first 200 miles. In other words, drive the vehicle with varying speeds and loads on the engine. Occasional full throttle runs from a rolling start to 4,500 RPM will help seat components such as piston rings, but the engine should be cooled after doing this. It's also wise to check rocker and valve clearance after 150 to 200 miles to ensure adjusters are tight and lash is proper. Those are our tips for engine break-in. What did we miss? What does work for you? Leave a note in the comments section below, and thanks for watching.
All right.
K24 swap in 60 seconds. The first thing I decided to do was the type.
So, I mean, I learned a lot from that video. One thing that we do is inspect the engine, both of them, check the oil, water, and leaks, and in parts. So that's something that we need to do. So again, so one thing I feel like is tighten up like the components. So tighten up the engine again, do a last little quick peek through, make sure every component that's supposed to be tightened up is tightened up before even putting the radiator fluid in, because last thing you want to do is to put the coolant in there and then realize that you you left something open. So that's one thing. Make sure everything's plugged up, working properly. Fill one thing they were saying, like fill it halfway with oil. So let me go ahead and run that back for what he was saying.
Getting ready to fire up a new engine? Wires and carburetor. Fill the filter with oil and then tighten by hand. Consider using break-in. When installing an oil filter, fill it about halfway with oil, move the rubber gasket that surrounds the filter with oil, and then tighten by hand.
Okay, so this is something that we already know. We're talking about the oil filter. So with oil filters, especially with trucks, I know my master tech kind of laughed at me when I was talking about putting doing it with the regular cars. He's like, boy, that ain't no real big car. I'm like, I hear you, man. I'm just saying, like, you start doing it, then it's like it's a habit. So yeah, so what he's saying is with the oil filter, with this part of the installation, we're gonna pour it halfway, then the edge, the gasket, just the thing that closes the rubber gasket, you're going to basically put a little bit of that old used oil on it. Then you're going to hand tighten it. All right. And then you can do it just a little bit, but yeah, just hand tighten is all you need. I mean, one thing about it is somebody's going to take it off, and you got to think about it. We're planning on taking off after 50 miles. Then we plan on taking off after 500 and 1,500 and 4,000 miles. So in theory, as much as we're going to be running the first week, we're going to be doing 2 oil changes. So it's going to be 2 oil changes the first week. There's going to be 1 oil change the second week, and the third week there is going to be another oil change. So for this week, 50 miles, we're going to first put oil in, then we're going to put new oil in it after 50 miles, then after 500 miles, then after 1,500 miles, and then after 4,000 miles. If you tighten it up too much, then that means you got to loosen it up. And then at that point, man, if you ever been, some mechanics don't like people. I'll just put it like that. So what other notes is there? Oh yeah, one thing he was saying is that zinc additive. When you talk about that break-in oil, that's one thing that he was referring to a lot of times. Again, you need to prime the system. So we need to make it a point to prime the engine oil, the engine and everything like that when using. And then that break-in with conventional. So what we're going to do, we're just going to use conventional oil. I'm normally using synthetic oil. That's normally what I always use. But because, this is not the first time I've heard it. I heard another person say use conventional break-in oil for the most part. But at the same time, that's the reason why we're here. So we don't do anything crazy. And then after that, run it 2,000 and 2,500 RPMs with no load. All right. So the ideal is to run it for at least 30 minutes with no load, where we're going to be varying the RPMs. And then after that, before we do all that, we need to put 50-50 coolant in it with the cap off for at least 2 hours before we even think about starting the engine. And the reason why we're going to have the cap off is because we want a lot of the air that might be trapped in there to release. So, yeah. Now it's going to be just a few different YouTubers that's going to be showing us a few things. Some is going to be kind of, most of them going to be short. I got like two long ones. And after that, we're going to watch a little TikTok.
K24 swap in 60 seconds. The first thing I decided to do was the Type S oil pump. When you do this install, you do have to retime the engine. So I bought all OEM timing chain components and I got those installed. I also decided to do a baffled pan. I got this from Unit 2 Fabrications, and I'm going to be taking this car to the track, so this is important. I also went with some ITBs over at Boiler Performance and installed some new injectors. Now, I decided to paint my own valve cover and it went really well, and I got all new gaskets and got that installed. Now we're getting really close to putting the engine and transmission together, so I did do a new rear main seal because I was right there, and why not? I installed a brand new ACT clutch, and now that I've got that completed, I'm gonna put the release bearing in the transmission, and now it's time to put the engine and transmission together. And I'm gonna roll this bad boy straight into the car. This may look genius, but it was the easiest way all by myself. And this is a K24 swap.
Today I'm gonna teach you how.
Oh yeah, so unlike what she's doing, you have to make sure that the transmission can handle the engine. If you a rule of thumb, you want a stronger transmission, to my understanding, one that can handle, like, you can put a very strong engine in a Urus or a Corolla, but it's not going to last long because the engine, the transmission is not really going to be able to handle it. So if you are to do something on that kind of body, you're going to essentially need to change the transmission as well as the engine as well, and then make sure that if it's four-wheel drive, it's four-wheel drive. If it's rear wheel, if it's front wheel, you got to make sure that you have it that way, because the component for the four-wheel drive, the differentiator, there is no differentiator when it comes to two-wheel drive. If it's two in front and two in the back, there is no differentiator. But if it's a four-wheel, it's a differentiator that's in the middle, and it basically allows all four wheels to run at the same time. All right.
How to do an engine swap on a car. Step number 1, find the car to do the project on. Next, find an engine that fits, and if it doesn't fit, make it fit. That's why you see these cut out. But how do you get the motor? So you could get a crate motor like this, which is going to be the easiest, or maybe you could go to the junkyard and get a wrecked one. Or you could be like me and buy a brand new one. After you get your engine, you need to figure out what transmission you want, manual or automatic, with sporting accessories. Next you need is fuel, which I got my full kit from Aeromotive, which consists of the pump, filter, regulator, lines, and fuel injectors. Now, if your engine doesn't belong in that car, you're going to need a control pack to power it. Luckily, Ford does have one available to control this cavity. You're also going to need cooling, which I got the radiator and fan setup from Alloy Works. Engine, trans, fuel, cooling, and control pack, that right there is an engine swap.
If you're doing an engine swap, you absolutely got to know this information. And the reason you need to know what I'm about to share with you today, these engines are becoming more and more available in salvage yards all across the country and all across the world. So it's very, very important for you to know this information that I'm about to share with y'all today, because you got to know how to adapt these engines into your car. If this your first time on the channel, hey, I'm Tony. LS swaps or LT swaps is what we do. Our goal is to help you be able to do your LT swap or L.
Did you know that you can have permanent teeth in just 24 hours? That's right. Only 24 hours and your new smile is ready.
Ran that. Let's see that again. Ooh, look at that fire to back. Yeah,
Did you know that you can have permanent teeth
smoky.
in just 24 hours? That's right.
What I'm talking about.
Only 24 hours and your new smile is ready. And with affordable payment
Number 7, sick. Number 7 was sick. I ain't gonna lie. That's a little beast. The thing flames to the side. You see that fire? Simpsons. It's like that Urus. Like putting on the Urus.
There is a God.
Heather be thy name.
Sweet. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. They did that.
Top 3 best engine swaps. Number 1, LS. 345 horsepower, V8, aluminum. They were made a billion times. Does this make you unique? No. But is it going to be reliable? Hell yeah. Number 2, K24. These things are getting expensive, and they do have a tendency to vibrate to high hell. But when you do blow them up, they can last up to 500 horsepower. You can find another one in the junkyard pretty much any day and age. And number 3, oh, Jesus. 1GRFE.
I switched.
I switched.
Everyone's switching to Red Pocket, your new ultimate.
Yo, Greg, if you could stop complaining about the heat, it was like the Arctic 12 seconds ago. Oh my God, no! So you want to do an engine swap. If you're watching this video, I want you to know that my heart goes out to you because you're gonna hate it. like your life. It's one of the most challenging things in the world. Your patience is going to be tested. You're going to experience a roller coaster of emotions. You might even feel like giving up, starting the whole thing on fire, and filing an insurance claim as if that's going to work, which you probably, I mean, it could work, but the odds of you actually getting the insurance money will never pan out. Engine swapping a car is probably one of the most painful things to do. And even though people will say that it's not, it is. I mean, whether you're LS swapping, 2JZ swapping, or anything else under the sun, there's some things that you're gonna probably have to keep in mind if you plan on motor swapping your car. So let's just get this out of the way. It's going to be a pain in the ass. There's just no way around it. If you're swapped an engine before and you tell me that you didn't have issues, you're a liar, because I know that there's gonna be one of you down in the comments saying that you one time swapped an LS7 into your 99 Civic and you had no issues. You can just right off, because there's no way that actually happened. First things first, you're gonna want to choose the right engine that you want to jump into. Not every car is gonna be able to handle a lot of the power. Some cars' suspension, their rigidity, or brakes just can't handle a high power engine. So when you're looking for a car to engine swap, people tend to gravitate towards those that have a lighter weight because of the power to weight ratio. That's why Datsuns are such a great platform, in case you guys wanted to know. Also, keep in mind that not every engine swap makes sense, because you can't just take any car and toss any engine into it. Shocking, I know. So if you think you can just find yourself an LS3 and drop it into a 370Z just like that, you probably are gonna wanna reconsider. The same reason that when Dakota ran outside of the building to go grab his phone and now come back in, he can't, because we're filming a video. If you wanna be internet famous, then go for it. But just remember that a lot of engine swaps don't make a ton of sense. So just be mindful and do your research when you're looking at a car to start your project. The engine is a little bit like, trickier. Obviously, you're gonna have to opt for a high horsepower application, because if you're engine swapping, you're not gonna go to a smaller horsepower engine platform because you're not a nerd. You can find a pretty good chunk of information on the internet. The first step is actually researching whether an engine will fit in a certain car, and sometimes you end up having to go down the rabbit hole, and the next thing you know, you're thinking about spending $50,000 on a setup, and it just doesn't make sense, but you wanna be internet famous. So, I mean, it could be a possible chance. Anyway, if you can't find it on the internet, you're gonna have to do some measuring. You're gonna have to make sure that if it clears the hood, that it's not gonna sit too low on the ground or scrape the oil pan across the road whenever you drive the car. There's firewalls, shock towers that get in the way, your new engine fitting actually getting into place, your cooling, all that sort of stuff is actually gonna matter, which if you don't care about that, right? If you're just here to say, send it, you can send it. You're just not gonna send it well. Because once you actually do all that and you realize that it doesn't fit, you're gonna have a terrible time. You're gonna cut everything, you're gonna hammer everything. I remember doing it. You're gonna hammer absolutely everything to make something fit, and then you're gonna wonder why your actual gas pedal leg doesn't fit appropriately with the gas pedal, because there's this hammered out section in the tunnel because your dumbass thought it was a great idea to hammer out your tunnel well, and it just didn't pan out. Besides firewalls and shock towers getting in the way, there's a couple other things that you have to take into consideration, like the seating of the actual motor. There are things that can't be moved out of the way at all unless you relocate them, like batteries and radiators. So once you've figured out all of that, you're pretty much good to go, right? I mean, no, because you're gonna have to think about accompanying a wiring harness, manifolds, ECU, stuff like alternators, starters, distributors. You will have to think about the transmission. Shocking, I know. Usually it's just to stick with any of the same manufacturer of the engine, which makes sense, but then you actually have to place that stuff into the car, which does not always line up if you imagine that you have an engine that's about kaput length, and then you have a transmission that adds about kaput length, and your car is only kaput length. You're gonna have some issues. Your old exhaust is also gonna have to be a pain in the ass, because it's more than likely gonna have to come apart and get reassembled, and you can't just go buy an exhaust kit. You have to go get one fabricated, because it's different, just like you're different, because it just has to be unique because you decided to engine swap your car. Then you're gonna have to think about actually tucking your wires and making sure that they don't, light on fire, because anytime you motor swap a car, there's wires all over the place, and then you end up wiring it to the point of where you wouldn't be able to access it again if you needed to, so you better pray that you do it right the first time. Now, you might scream and throw tools across your neighbor's yard and get really mad because you're having a panic attack because of everything that's happening, but you'll be fine, because once you figured out how to get the old engine out and you figured out how to get the new engine in and fit everything into the place, you're gonna have to get new brackets that match your engine. You're gonna have to get new mounting points to match all the stuff to. You're gonna have to figure out good other things that you never thought you'd have to think about before, like fuses and different stuff and gas lines and your gauges and making sure all that stuff works because you decided to engine swap a car. You're gonna have to figure out how to communicate with the new engine with an ECU, which could be as simple as like a cable swap or could end up being an entirely electronic controlled throttle body, which is about as fun as it sounds. Some vehicles have adapter kits out there as well, which is good depending on what sort of engine you're swapping into the car, but it doesn't always pan out that way. And a lot of times you have to remember that all of this comes together into this behemoth, this Frankenstein, this thing that you think works or pray works. Once you've actually figured out how to get everything running and then the power to the wheels, and you figured out how to mate everything to the car without zip ties is cheating, you have to also think about the cooling then, which is going to be terrible because there's likely no room for it. The radiator hoses and heat and all that sort of stuff are usually needs to be done custom to the vehicle. You're going to end up finding yourself that the AC and the power steering are probably not going to match up with it either, which means that it's probably going to have to go. I'm sorry. Mechanical steering pumps might not fit with the hood, and AC compressors just won't fit with it either. It's another thing to totally be dependent on what car and what platform you end up using, but more than likely you're gonna find yourself with less hair than you did when you started, and you're gonna have none of the amenities that you once had because it's gonna be a pain in the ass. You wanna know why? Would you like to know why? It's because you decided to engine swap your car. Now there might be some purists out there saying, no, you can do it without a problem. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's probably swapped them terrible in the past. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just, I'm being real with you guys, okay? If you don't use a hammer and you don't have like 6 rolls of electrical tape while you're engine swapping a car, you just haven't gotten to the hard part yet. You can pretty much expect nothing to go right and you'll be fine. And let's not forget about the fact of that one guy, that one thing, it's like an umbrella, it kind of encompasses our roads, like it's called, I think, the government, and they love us, and are totally legal, not obnoxious, under the radar cars, and modifications. Like when you finally get your air suspension and drive around as low as possible, and the next thing you know, you're stopped on the side of the road looking at your rear view because there's a blaring red and blue light. Like, cops don't like engine swapped cars because usually it's pretty easy to tell that they're highly illegal. So if you live in a state that actually cares, California, you're probably not going to have the best of times. So when swapping an engine, it has to meet both the emissions for itself and the car.
You should all swap it. I was getting outside, sorry, and I had to think of a creative way to interrupt.
So now that you've thought about all of that and your brain is hurting just as much as mine and you're sitting there contemplating your life choices because you probably already bought the thing that you end up swapping because you're 20 years old and you thought it'd be a great idea to do while you're in college, let me just reassure you that everything is going to be okay. We promise, because don't panic. All you need is a little bit of patience, a lot of beer, some friends, and you'll be fine. Engine swapping your car is actually one of the most hilariously fun and exciting things you can do to a car if you're willing to take the risk. And if you don't mind your garage looking like a bomb just went off in it because there's parts everywhere and your 10 mil is somehow gone every 6 minutes, you're going to enjoy engine swapping a car. Now, it probably
you ain't
won't
lying
be the
about
most
that
enjoyable
10
thing in the
mil.
world. Your friends will probably make fun of you because it's broken all the time. But when it finally gets running, when it finally is behaving the way it's supposed to, when it's finally finished and it looks like it's supposed to and it's driving and it's cooling and the speedometer works and the turn signals are working and the transmission isn't grinding and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, this is so exciting. You're gonna realize that you forgot to change your fuel pump and you're gonna run out of fuel because your gas, you have no gas in your gas tank. I've done that before. We hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to check out fitmentindustries.com if you're looking for wheels, tires, suspension. Drop a comment if you've ever engine swapped a car, or if you haven't and you're thinking about it. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, if you want to give us a few ideas, I mean, we're about it.
I'll subscribe.
It'd be a pretty exciting thing to do. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries. We will see you later. Peace.
I believe that's the last YouTube video we watching. Or is it? Oh, no, hold on. I think this is the last one.
You've seen some videos of people on YouTube swapping all kinds of engines in their cars.
Let's go ahead and switch it up. We're going to just do TikTok for right now.
Way of driving with an electric. I think I did something kind of crazy. I swapped the 30-year-old engine in this van with an electric motor. I got rid of everything possibly in the way of dropping this engine out and separated the transmission, which I'm keeping. To mount this new motor to the transmission, I created a copy of the bell housing and had it cut out of aluminum and added in bolt holes so that the new motor would be centered to the input shaft. Now I need to figure out a way to connect the output shaft of the motor to the input shaft of the transmission. I bought the crankshaft from a blown engine that matches this transmission. Then I just cut the top of it off and bored out a hole for the output shaft of the motor with a keyway. Then I used a shaft collar to lock it onto the output shaft of the motor. Then I could bolt the whole clutch assembly and line it up perfectly with new engine mounts to make this all fit.
That do sound sexy. I'm not gonna lie.
California hates car enthusiasts, but believe it or not, you actually can do an engine swap in California and have it be 100% legal, and here's how. First and foremost, the most simple rule is that the engine you're putting into the car has to be newer than the chassis you're putting it into. So if you have a 2018 BMW M3 and you want to put an LS3 in it from a 2013 Chevy Corvette, you can't do it. Now, take that same LS3 and put it in a 1998 BMW E36, that is legal, with some other stipulations. Another big rule here in California is that the engine you're swapping in has to be from the same class of vehicle. So you can't put a truck engine in a car, you can't put a car engine in a truck, that kind of thing. Now, the last and most important stipulation is that all of the OEM equipment from the engine you're swapping has to be attached and installed when you go and get the car inspected. That means catalytic converters, O2 sensors, air intakes, literally everything. When you pop the hood of your car, it needs to look like a stock version of whatever car you pulled the engine from. This is why when doing an engine swap in California, it's better to just buy a whole donor car instead of trying to piece parts together. Because believe it or not, if you have parts in your engine bay that are even from a different trim level of the car that you're swapping from, that's not allowed. So for example, if you did a 5.0 Coyote swap and decided to put like a GT500 intake manifold on it, not legal, even if it passes the sniffer test. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Once you're all done, it has to pass a visual and a sniffer test. But once that's done, you get a nice little sticker that says your swap is legal, and it gives them like instructions on how to smog your car legally in the future. So can you swap engines in California? Yes. Is it gonna be a painful and expensive process? Also yes. That's California for you, baby.
Yeah, it is California. You can't even go 55 as a truck driver. I feel them, boy. Sometimes you got to take care of your business.
He'd have thought ahead of time. I'd have told him I'd have painted his engine bay when I was pulling it out. It really nice. You know, cat with a 350Z, you kind of want your Jones.
Don't come through on a moped. Nigga, stepping like a dope man. Bad bitch, her ass out, she walk like.
This is my Ferrari V8 swap BMW wagon.
Okay. 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 Oh. Parts of life.
If you were going to engine swap a Hellcat and you had the choice of any engine, what engine would you stick in this big empty hole? A while back, I bought this stolen Hellcat from the salvage auction to get a few parts I needed for my Demon build. We took what we needed, and now we're left with this beautiful chassis that we can pretty much do whatever we want with. The body on this thing's still in beautiful shape, and though it doesn't have a complete set of wheels on it at the moment, we still have full suspension, the subframes, the steering. everything's here, even if it looks kind of raggedy at the moment. This engine bay can handle pretty much anything. It's a big gaping hole. It's wide, it's long, it's tall. There's essentially no restrictions based on space. We do already have a couple options around the shop, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think before we start working on it.
So let me get this straight. You want me to give up this for an electric vehicle with no exhaust and a speaker? You must be out of your fucking mind.
All right. So, all right, so we about to finish off this last video. Just basics about swapping cars. This guy explains it. All right, let's go.
Two Jay-Z swapped E30. A Prius with a Hellcat engine in it. V8 powered Miatas. That car weighs as much as a shoe. So how hard is it to do an engine swap? Can you just do it in your garage? So today I'm going to talk about engine swaps, how it's done, and how you can plan for an engine swap of your own by following these simple steps. Simple. You found it through Jay-Z on Facebook Marketplace. One of your boys mentioned that he has an extra transmission laying around in his garage. You're pretty much set, right? Engine swap. You're only a weekend away from having a 2 Jay-Z powered monster. No, far from it. It's not that simple. I really wish it was though. There's a lot more that goes into performing a successful heart surgery on your car. In fact, finding an engine and transmission is actually the easy part. And like with doing anything this complex, you need to plan ahead. You need to plan. And then once you're done planning, you need to sit down and plan a bit more. The easiest approach is to do a swap that's been done before, because it takes away some of the planning that you need to do. And it's more likely that you'll find help and resources online, which is really key. So here's a list of items you need to consider for a complete engine transplant. First item on the list is an obvious one, the car. This guy. Of course I have a car. Yeah, but is it the right car? Because listen, not every car deserves an engine swap. It's just the reality. A good candidate has great handling, it's light, it can actually handle the extra power and weight, and it's commonly swapped. For example, E30, E36, E46, the entire S chassis, basically all the Zs, the Miata, the FRS or the BRZ. All these cars are great platforms for doing engine swaps. And if you look online, you'll see that a lot of people are swapping the engines of these cars. And honestly, a Hellcat swapped Prius could make you internet famous for like a day. But at the end of the day, you still have a Prius that handles like garbage. And I bet it'll cost you a lot of money to build. And you basically wasted a Hellcat engine on that car. Like, what are you doing with your life? Which brings me to my next point, engine and transmission. The engine you're putting in needs to be more powerful, or at least have more potential than the one you're ripping out. And in most cases, the transmission that you already have in the car wasn't designed to work with this new engine. So you would need a transmission as well. And this combination of engine and transmission needs to fit in the car. If this is a type of swap that's been done before, it's a good sign. It means it probably fits. And you could look up online to see how well it fits. Like, do you need to cut or massage the firewall or the transmission tunnel to make it fit? And just stay away from changing a front wheel drive car to a rear wheel drive car. Yes, a rear wheel drive K-swapped Honda Civic would be super cool, until you realize for the amount of money that you need to waste to make this happen, you could just buy an S2000, and the S2000 will be faster, handle much better, and it will be a lot more reliable than whatever you put together. Okay, now that you have a decent chassis to work with and you've picked the right engine and transmission, you're gonna need engine and transmission mounts, because they don't just magically float in your engine bay. They're mounted to the chassis with engine and transmission mounts. This is becoming a common theme, but if it's a common swap, someone out there has gone through the trouble of designing and fabricating mounts for your swap. Don't try to reinvent it, just buy it. Just make sure you get them from a reputable source. That should immediately eliminate eBay mounts. Okay, engine and transmission is all mounted up, ready to go. Next is axles and drivetrain. Obviously, you need to send the power from your transmission to the wheels. If it's a front wheel drive car, you usually just need axles. For rear wheel drive cars, you need a drive shaft of the correct length.
For a little savings, Specialist Miller buys in bulk. For a lot of savings, she bundles her home and auto insurance with USAA. Putting more money back in her pocket?
Yeah, so what a lot of what we heard is great information. It's similar to what he was saying, making sure the boats line up and then using other people's knowledge to be able to set up what you need, because a lot of times if you are trying to recreate the wheel when it's already done, it's really going to be a headache. But if you are to really be great at this, you know what I'm saying, as far as the swapping out engines, period, it's best to go ahead and just uh, use the newer can go in old, but the old can't go in newer. That's one thing that was said. If you live in California, it sucks. You really have to be aware of whatever state you're in and determine if it's legal, and also the engine body size. So what we're gonna do is tomorrow we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna have the welder come by. The welder's gonna take care of the weld, so that way when I'm all the way, I'm not going to California, but if all the way do decide to go all the way to Wyoming, I'm not worried about something rattling and going off. After that, I'm gonna put the coolant in there, that 50/50 coolant, and with the cap off for a couple hours to let the air get out, and tighten up everything I need to tighten up. Look at the components, make sure it's wrapped up in what it needs to be, and at that point, we're going to try to start it up, and we're going to have to change oil here and there. So until next time, next time you see me, I'll be outside. Until then, I really appreciate you. Go ahead, like, comment, share, subscribe. Make it a point to, I guess you could say, kiss your mechanic. Yeah, man.